Hello, hey guys. So today I wanted to come on and just do a little hangout Q&A. If you guys have some questions about natural fertility, reproductive health, anything we've talked about this last week, I'm here to help and answer questions. My name is Heather Rodriguez, and I'm a natural fertility specialist. I help women who are preparing for pregnancy, whether that's just to have a healthier pregnancy, overcome current fertility issues, preparing for a medical fertility treatment, all of that. I provide tons of resources, empowerment, support in that area. So today I'm going to be just answering questions and hanging out with you guys. So if you have any fertility questions, you can put them in the comments, and we will discuss all things natural fertility today. So get some self-care going. Okay, hey guys, nice to see you. So if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi, go ahead and say hello in the comments and ask your question. And we'll go ahead and get started here in just a second. So here, I'm going to, let's see if I can put this in the comments. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Whoops. Spelled comments wrong. Forgive me. Let's see. Hey, Mary, how is it going? Good morning. Okay. Oh, that was cool. Let me get started here in just 1 second. Questions for today's Q&A in the comments. Okay. I'm always learning with technology. Okay, perfect. I see your guys, your stuff coming through. Perfect. Okay, post your questions for today's Q&A in the comments. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can get my head above the thing. Okay, great. So I see some questions coming through. Let's see. Hello, I've had endometriosis and a lot of pain with sex. So how do I make it more comfortable in order to try to make this baby my husband and I want? That is such a great question. It can be pretty hard if sex is uncomfortable, right? For sure. So there's a couple different things. So when it comes to endometriosis, there's a lot of inflammation. So starting to focus on something to help with that pain is going to be helpful, but also managing that endometriosis so that their inflammation isn't there any longer is also going to be really important, because that makes it a little bit harder for some people to get pregnant. So there's definitely some herbs that are anti-inflammatory and that help the body to get rid of excess estrogen that make it, can help with that inflammation. We have a kit that helps us support the body to have normal functioning endometrial lining and all of those things that you could check out, but doing things to reduce inflammation first and foremost. But it is going to take time to have an effect on that. Also, discussing with your husband about that is important for sure. But yeah, that's such a good topic. You know, we work with a lot of people with endometriosis, but we've never had that specific question or talked about that with them, but that has to be such a common thing. So helping to reduce the inflammation through diet and the use of herbs and enzymes would probably be good. Mary's asking, is Harmonize back in stock? It is waiting to be unpacked, but our shipping warehouse, the company we use to help ship our products, is so behind because of COVID that we're still waiting for them to unpack that box. So it's there, but we're hopefully going to have it back up on the site by the end of next week. Mary's doing well. Awesome. When does fertility decline in women? Does a 35-year-old still have a good chance of conceiving? Yes. So the reason that fertility is declining with age is because our bodies are exposed to more things over the years, more free radicals, toxins, chemicals, stress, you know the list, right? So that is affecting the health of the eggs, and everyone is affected differently. So some women not affected, right? Some women can be a lot more, can be affected by everything. We don't know why that happens, but a 35-year-old woman still has a great chance of conceiving. It just depends on what's going on. So the first step would be to get some testing done if you haven't gotten pregnant within a year, to see what's going on. Could there be a hormone that is out of balance? Could there be something happening with male sperm? That's the best way to start, is just to kind of see what's going on. If everything comes back fine and your doctor's like, there's nothing in your chest, you're great, then I would just start focusing on supporting egg health. You can do that by going to egghealthtips.com. I have a whole guide there on, it's like a checklist of the things to do to help support that, but also doing that and increasing circulation to the reproductive system with massage, castor oil packs, exercise, and self-care. Self-care is so huge, helping to manage stress. There's a big link between stress and AMH levels and all of that. So having a self-care routine. I have some stuff coming up that I'm working on right now that are going to be supportive self-care for women on their fertility journey. So keep an eye out for that. Hi, does having high-risk HPV lessen your chances of pregnancy? Any natural vitamins, nutrients to take to make the cervix healthy? So possibly if there's any type of scarring that is occurring, that's where those types of things can affect fertility, is with scar tissue. To make a healthy cervix, we have a guide on helping to have a healthy uterus. The cervix is a part of the uterus, it's the bottom part. So all the things that you would be doing to help support your uterus would also be helping support a healthy cervix. So definitely look for that guide on natural fertility info. I don't think, it'd be nice to have my assistant with me. She could pull up these articles for you. But we have it on there if you do a search for uterine health or support the uterus naturally on our site. Some of those things are going to be like, wood raspberry leaves, great for that. Things to increase circulation. And Vitex is also out of stock. I know we have been super busy and slammed. So Vitex went out of stock, and we're waiting for it. So an alternative to that would be to do our Fertilicare formula. That has Vitex as well as some adaptogenic tonic herbs in it. That's generally my go-to. I love it because it's kind of a step up from just using plain Vitex. Rachel says, I was diagnosed with PCOS in 2016. I was just wondering, is it possible to still be insulin resistant even though you're skinny? Yes, such a great question. So the thing with PCOS is people show up in all kinds of ways. There's all kinds of PCOS. And it doesn't just mean based on weight. So when someone gets diagnosed with PCOS by their doctor, there's usually a list of factors that they kind of are checking off. And if they have a certain number of those factors, then it's PCOS. And the list of factors is gigantic. And not everyone's going to have every single thing that's on that list. So weight is not always a sign. There's plenty of what they would call skinny PCOS. But the underlying issue is insulin resistance. And that can be in people of all sizes. So yes, that is a possibility. You can have testing for that done, but also there are a lot of natural therapies you can use to help manage it. Not necessarily make it disappear and it never come back again, but to help manage it and then go on to have a healthy pregnancy. Once you do become pregnant, you'll still have to continue to manage it because that same hormonal imbalance situation can affect the health of your pregnancy, and your doctor or midwife will talk with you about that as well. Hey, Kelly, how's it going? Someone's saying that was a good question about being 35 and older. She's also 35. Annie's saying she's 4 months postpartum and she wants to conceive. What are the chances? If you have your cycle back and you're ovulating, then there you go. Then you're ready to go. For some women, it takes a good amount of time after they've given birth to have their hormones back to a place where they're ovulating and having a regular cycle. And also for some women, when they're breastfeeding, it makes it harder to get pregnant, but for some it doesn't. So it just kind of matters what's going on with your body if your cycle is regular and you're ovulating again. And if you are breastfeeding, that was another question I had that I was going to cover, but if you are breastfeeding, there are certain herbs you shouldn't be using to support fertility, but there are some herbs that you can use. Kelly's asking what causes irregular periods when all your hormones are balanced. So there's a couple different causes for an irregular period. One of them can be stress, another can be nutritional deficiencies, and the third can be hormonal imbalance. That could be of the thyroid, that could be of just the hormones overall, too high of estrogen, too high testosterone, so on. There's a whole list. So if you had your testing done and your hormones are fine, but you're still having irregular periods, you might want to look at the stress cause and the nutritional deficiency cause. So there's a lot of different reasons, but they all still tie in. So if there was a nutritional deficiency, it is affecting hormonal imbalance and the ability to produce hormones. If it was a stress factor, then that's going to affect your hormones as well, because of having too high of cortisol can affect the rest of the cascade. Can someone with ovarian cysts, whoops, this keeps on hopping. Can someone with ovarian cysts still be able to conceive? Yes. It would be better to help the body to get back to a balanced place. If that's happening, it's a sign of something's happening in the body, and ovulation could be affected by that. I'm currently not trying to conceive. I'll try after a few months, hopefully. I want to start castor oil pack and vaginal steaming now. How frequently should you do these? So with castor oils packs, they can be done a couple times a week. It depends on what your goal is. Let me see. I'm just trying to. I want to get this sticker smaller. It just depends on what your goal is for the castor oil packs, but I would say 3 times a week if you have the time to do that. Once a week, if that's all you can do, that'll be helpful. And then the other part of your question, vaginal steaming. I can't remember. It's not something that I really use. We have some articles on it on the website, but it's not something that we use a whole lot, as it's not really accessible to most of our customers, and making it an easy thing to do. So you probably have to ask someone that uses that as a therapy regularly, how often to do that. Let's see. Rachel is asking again. She's experiencing skinny PCOS. She was able to get pregnant with the help of pharmaceuticals and her doctor. Congratulations. She'd really like to get pregnant for a 3rd time naturally if possible. She goes for more blood testing next month when she starts her cycle. Yeah, so you can read on our website, we've helped a lot of women through this, and they've gotten pregnant despite PCOS, and it's just through management, through diet. And once you have the diet steps under control, then using herbs and different things to help. All right, I'm going to take that off because I'm trying to always keep my head above the band. But if anyone has questions, you can go ahead and post them. We're just doing a little Hangout fertility Q&A today. Let's see. Okay, Bushy's asking, can we use Vitex, evening primrose oil, fish oil, and ashwagandha together? And can you take these after ovulation? Yes, so the thing with most herbs is they can be used together very well. Herbs actually work synergistically together, so that's something that's really nice. It's not very often that there's a lot of, sorry, I'm just putting my thyroid stuff on, thyroid oils. There's not a lot of contraindications for herbs generally, so they can work really well together. So what did you list? You list evening primrose oil, Vitex, fish oil, and ashwagandha. Those all, except for the evening primrose oil, can be used all month long. They are things that need to be taken for long periods of time to have a good effect from. And then evening primrose oil, you would actually stop right after ovulation and begin again at your period if you're actively trying to conceive. The reason is evening primrose oil may be stimulating to the uterus. We don't know for sure, but it's just better to be safe. And anyways, most people are using evening primrose oil to increase cervical mucus, so that's the time you would take it anyways and need it. See, I'm just gonna get some more questions. Okay. How come, what can cause spotting while ovulation week after a workout? I'm not sure. There's all kinds of reasons that people spot. Sometimes when they start using new herbs, they can spot. Sometimes if they're really stressed out, they can spot. It's just hard. There's so many different reasons someone could be spotting. I don't know the particular reason would be. Support for ovulation. You can get your monthly menses, but that necessarily does not mean you're ovulating correct. So the period, having a period and ovulating don't really actually have anything to do with each other, except they're all part of a cycle. There have been women who ovulate and get pregnant but don't have a period. There are women who have regular periods like clockwork, but they're not ovulating. So the only way to know is through fertility charting or some type of tracking to know whether or not you're ovulating. So just because you have a normal, healthy period doesn't mean anything about your ovulation. Annie's saying, I just got back my periods in my 4th month, my first period after baby and breastfeeding. Suggest some supplements, please. So I did a video. If you look up on YouTube, I did a video on Vitex and breastfeeding. And in that video, I go into all the herbs that can be supportive of fertility while you're breastfeeding. So if you watch that video, that'll answer your question in depth. What are symptoms of uterine polyps and how likely is it that they'll come back after removal? I don't kind of want to get into that topic right now because that's very specific. It would be better to talk with your doctor about that. Because I don't really know the answer of how likely it is for them to come back after removal. Sorry. Thanks for the answer. You're welcome. Erica says, please help. I haven't had my cycle since July. My doctor gave me a pill to take for 10 days, and my cycle was supposed to come after 10 days. It still didn't. So this was a topic. I've been getting so many questions about birth control. I'm assuming he possibly put you on birth control to help stimulate a menstrual cycle, but that wasn't really a period. It still hasn't come. So if you can watch that video, it's everywhere. It's like Facebook, on YouTube. I talked about birth control and trying to conceive. And that had a lot of tips on what to do about not having a period. There's a couple things you can do. First of all, you have to remember that the reason someone doesn't have a period is different for everybody. Some women don't have periods because they have PCOS. Some women don't have periods because they have some type of estrogen dominant situation. Some women are underweight, or there's some women who have nutritional deficiencies. There's others who are very stressed out and have high stress lives, and that's affecting their hormonal system and whether or not they can have a period. So there's not just like, here's the herb to take, or, there's not an easy answer. Using natural therapies requires there to be a little bit of investigating that's happening and supporting of the body so that the body can do all these things and the body can menstruate regularly. So we're not necessarily like, here's something you take for 10 days, you'll get your period back. It's more like, here's something that helps support your endocrine system or increases the circulation to your reproductive system to help you. Sorry, I know all my answers are super long like that, but that's how nature works, because you have to think about it. I personally would rather work on the underlying issue with the sign of the imbalance being the missing period. There's something happening underneath that's bigger and that's more important. And you want that to be figured out before you become pregnant, because once you're pregnant, you have a lot less options of what you can do about these issues, and it could possibly affect your ability to get pregnant. So looking at that, taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. Feel free to email us. We can send you some resources on what to do with any of those different reasons for missing a period. What causes spotting between your periods? Generally, some type of fluctuation in hormones is why someone would have spotting between your period. So what spotting is your uterine lining is growing throughout the month, right? You have your period, that's the shedding of the uterine lining. And every day after your period, your uterine lining is growing. And that generally is happening up until in preparation for ovulation, right? And after you ovulate, your progesterone shoots up because that's going to help to maintain that lining that your body just produced and grew, so that when the fertilized egg comes down the fallopian tubes and comes down into the uterus, it has a wonderful place to nest and to implant. And that's what the uterine lining is for. So if you're having spotting, basically that can mean a drop in estrogen or something that's happening so that the lining starts to shed a little bit before implantation has occurred, or it can happen after ovulation as well. But it's generally some type of shift in estrogen or progesterone. It could be low estrogen, low progesterone, high estrogen, and then spotting occurs. So there's no black and white answer to that one, but it's showing some type of hormonal fluctuation that is not, completely balanced. Are there any herbs that could interact badly with thyroid meds? I want to do the cleanse before trying to conceive. So there's a couple things with that. It's always best to, of course, check with your doctor if you are on medications before using herbs, because they know more about that medication than we do. Also, just so they know that you're using these herbs or whatever, if you're getting testing done. The thing with thyroid medications is, are you on thyroid hormone or are you on medications? Those are going to be two different things. But I always have to say to check with your doctor before you start using any herbs. There's none that we know of that do, but they know way more about the medication that you're on. I'm just reading through the comments. What causes breast discharge when not pregnant? Oh, that's an interesting one. So what causes breast discharge when not pregnant? Can one conceive even if the breast produces milk? So this is this happens to people. So this is when prolactin, which is the hormone that stimulates milk production in pregnant women, some people can produce prolactin even if they're not pregnant. So that's generally what's happening, and they might have like a couple of drops of milk, or their breasts are engorged, and kind of this whole thing's happening as if they were getting ready to breastfeed. So that is something that happens to people, and it can affect whether or not you can get pregnant, because high prolactin is one of the reasons that breastfeeding women don't always get pregnant right away, because if prolactin's high, a lot of the hormones that stimulate ovulation are going to be low. And if you guys have questions, some people are putting questions like one word in each thing. It's hard for me to read. It might be because maybe when you hit return every time after a word, it posts it, but it's just hard for me to read your questions if you're just posting one word every comment. Is it true coriander seed water prevents you from getting pregnant? Because I take these. I have no idea. I've never heard of that. Erica's saying she purchased our diet last year and hasn't been compliant with it. You may need to start backing it. Yeah, it can be hard. Those are, there can be a lot of changes. What I find that works for me when I'm wanting to get back to eating good, like say, I haven't, because I know after the holidays that happens a lot, is to kind of do a challenge. That's why we've got either the 21-day fertility diet challenge or the fertility smoothies challenge. You can get the fertility smoothies challenge for free at fertilitysmoothies.com. It's a 10-day smoothie challenge. Doing something like that gets you really motivated can be a good way to get jump started. And just know that the first 2 weeks of those changes are the hardest, because you may have eaten a lot of sugar or a lot of processed carbohydrates, and those things can be actually pretty addicting. But after those first 2 weeks, if you just can push through, your taste buds start to change, and it becomes much easier, and you start craving these healthier foods. So 21-day fertility diet challenge or the fertility smoothie challenge, I think, are great ways to start. Teresa is asking, she only had sex one time during her fertile window, and had implantation cramps 11 days past ovulation. When should you test? It depends on what the test is that you're using. It'll generally say this many days after ovulation or this many days after your period to test. How does Vitex help fertility? Vitex is a really interesting herb. It helps to support the communication loop that's happening between the hormones. It also helps to balance a couple of different hormones out. It helps with progesterone production. It does a lot of things, but it doesn't contain any hormones itself. It's doing this because of how it's working on the endocrine system. And that's one of the reasons I personally really like Vitex, is because it's not forcing anything on the body. It's helping to support the system, and then things balance themselves out. Now, one of the negatives about Vitex is it doesn't work if you have underlying nutritional deficiencies, or if you're experiencing something such as insulin resistance or PCOS, because those underlying issues, regardless of what you're kind of doing on the surface, if those underlying things aren't taken care of, ovulation still will not occur regardless. But it's something that does have to be taken daily and long-term to have the effects. So I'm just trying to get comfortable in my chair. Keep on moving around. How does taking Fertilica Maca help with fertility? So maca is a nice tonic herb that helps, again, it helps with the overall endocrine system, and it can help with hormonal production, but it's something that, and libido, which can be really helpful, but it's something that's not going to, if you don't need your estrogen levels, my dog is being so cute right now. If you don't need your estrogen levels to increase, it won't do that. So it just kind of helps to balance the body, and it helps to support the system overall. That's generally how most of the tonics are going to work. They're not going to have as specific as a response such as, say, like Vitex or Supplemento has. How does someone get pregnant without a period? I have a friend who got pregnant without her period. She's older. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Just because you don't have a period doesn't mean you're not ovulating. So a period has nothing to do with ovulation. A period is just you shedding the lining of your uterus that you built up over the last month. Whereas ovulation occurring is the egg being released and on its journey to fertilization. So some people, I have a girlfriend who didn't have a period for years, and she got pregnant with all her kids without a period. The body's amazing. Oh, thyroxine for thyroid medication. Doctor has no idea about the herbs. Angela's starting Clomid this cycle, things I can do to support this process and ease the side effects. It's hard because with Clomid, I would just focus on the foundational nutritional things, such as making sure you're on a multivitamin, you're taking folate, essential fatty acids, those kind of things, and eating a healthy fertility diet, like you're preparing for this to be the cycle and you're going to get pregnant this cycle, would be more my focus. There aren't herbs and things that I would combine with Clomid, because Clomid is having a very specific effect on the body, and you don't want to mess with any type of protocol that your doctor's doing. You have to kind of pick one route when you're on, like, in real time on the medication. So looking at the nutritional things you can do and acting and preparing like you're about to become pregnant, because that could very well happen. But she's saying she doesn't see any ovulation symptoms at all, no mucus. I feel dry. Most recently, I felt period-like cramps just a day after ovulation. A lot of people feel when they ovulate. It can be quite uncomfortable for some people. The best thing to know if you've ovulated or not is to begin fertility charting. That's going to tell you so much. Janine is asking if everyone can take Vitex. No, I wouldn't say that Vitex is for everyone across the board. It depends on what your goals are or what challenges you're having. No, there's no herb that I would be like, this is what everyone should do. There are nutrients that I feel like that about, and maybe some tonics, but Vitex is not for everyone, but it can be very helpful for a lot of specific things. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Is there a natural way to reverse tubal ligation? So no, there is not. A surgery would be required for that. There are things you can do to help with healing with that. If there happens to be scar tissue left from that procedure, but there's nothing we can do naturally to reverse tubal ligation. Can you do the fertility cleanse while breastfeeding? We do not suggest cleansing of any sort while you're breastfeeding. You don't want to increase kind of the toxin load or whatever in the blood or in your system when you're breastfeeding, because breast milk is made from your blood, and we don't want to be giving any type of concentrated amount of those things to your baby. Can you use Vitex while breastfeeding? I did a whole video you can find on YouTube if you type in, go to Natural Fertility Info and type in Vitex breastfeeding, about Vitex use during breastfeeding and herbs that are supportive to use for fertility while you're breastfeeding. Let's see. What kind of multivitamin can one be on before and after an embryo transfer? You would just be on the same. I generally suggest a whole food multivitamin. We personally on the website work with Megafood whole food multivitamin. You want to make sure that has enough folate, but if it's a prenatal, you're going to be all set. So you would just continue, you would just begin taking that. I personally think it's good to be taking that your entire, whenever you're trying to conceive, like just all month long, like normal. It's your new multivitamin. Let's see. By herbs with Clomid, do you mean I should stop taking Vitex, ashwagandha? Yes. So I do not suggest that anyone uses herbs while they're on Clomid. So if you're starting your Clomid tomorrow, you would want to not be on your herbs tomorrow. And then after you're done, you could look at using those herbs again. Again, if you're pregnant, you would want to discontinue herbs as well. Does evening primrose help with fertility? If so, how? Evening primrose helps with a couple of different things, but one of the things it helps with is cervical mucus production, which is very important for the sperm to be able to travel to the egg. For high FSH, suggest some herbs and treatments. I have a whole guide on my website at Natural Fertility Info about FSH and things that can be done. It's a whole, again, there's a lot of different categories that need to be focused on. It's not just like one specific herb to take, but it's like a lifestyle supportive. Something that you could get started with right now is a lot of women who do have high FSH happen to have high amounts of stress. So looking at ways to reduce stress and incorporating self-care would be very helpful. Okay, this is going to be my last question. What are the ways to heal from tubal ligation? Is there a way to help your tube connect on their own without surgery? That's so funny. I just answered that. No, there's nothing natural that you can do to have your tubes connected again. You have to go through the procedure of reversal. There are some things that you can use to help to, if scar tissue ends up being an issue for most women, like 75% of women, it is not an issue whatsoever. So it's not something to really stress out about, but if it does end up becoming an issue, there are some things you can do to help with inflammation and reducing scar tissue. And we have a whole guide on the website about that. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me on Friday. I hope you all are doing good and have a really good weekend. I'm excited because it's starting to be like Halloween season here, and we're going to a Halloween themed birthday party. So I'm excited. Let's get out of the house. Let's go do something fun. What are you guys doing this weekend? But it's like today it was 20 degrees here, so it's freezing. We're gonna have our first huge snowstorm. We're getting about a foot on Sunday. So I hope you all are in some warmer climates. It's awesome here. We choose to live here so we can snowboard and ski and things like that. So it is beautiful. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll be back on Monday with another fertility topic. All right, bye.